This episode of ReVibe's Artist Spotlight features Kimi Evelyn. Hey, Kimi.
Hello.
I'm so glad you decided to be here with us today.
Me too.
So, Kimi Evelyn, when did you start dancing?
So, I started dancing at the age of 4. I am 24, about to be 25, so almost 21 years, which makes me feel really old.
Girl.
Yeah. So I started at the tender age of 4, and I've been loving it ever since. Yeah.
What were the styles that you were first introduced to in dance?
My mom first put me into ballet, and I loved it, and it was a huge distraction from life for me. But ballet was like the first thing that I was introduced to, which I don't know if that was so much a good thing or a bad thing, but it definitely set the foundation for what was to come.
Why would that be a bad thing for you as far as, because I know that you're versed in several dance styles right now. So what about ballet do you feel could have hindered or impeded your dance expression?
Well, okay, personally I think that ballet, there's a very strict like rule book that you almost have to follow, unless you're taught on like different styles of ballet, but it was a pleasing type of activity for me, and so I grew up to be like the people pleaser, and then it spilled over into school and just personal life, and so as I got older, I saw those patterns happening before me, and so I think that it really kind of restricted me from becoming who I fully am, and even now it like sometimes hinders me from coming into the full person that I want to be, because I'm so used to wanting to be that people pleaser 24/7.
So that's so interesting that you say that, because see, when I see you and I see you move, I'm thinking like Kimi is just the free consummate artist. Like the way your movement, you have such an individualized movement. Like I like to watch you because there is a strength in the way you move, but there's also a softness in the way that you move, and it's still a very balanced movement. It's still a very feminine movement. And so I enjoy watching you dance, and to hear you say that is so interesting to me, because it just shows you how like you really don't know what's going on behind the dance as far as the creative input. I would think like, oh, Kimi's just doing her thing, and you're like, okay, I have a bunch of hesitancies in the back of my mind playing with me, because I'm thinking about the program the ballet program I was running on. So I think that we all do things as parents, with the right intention. Like we just want our children to grow and to develop and to be a certain way. We want to give you structure. We want to give you, guidelines, and we're going to give you the basis. And so how would your approach to young dance differ than what was given to you? Like what would be your prescription?
Oh gosh, I don't think I've ever thought about that, but I mean, I love you, Mom.
Of course we love Mom.
Yes, and I'm so appreciative for everything that she put me into, because I definitely think without it, I wouldn't be Kimi. But I think that if I could go back and pick and choose, I would probably start with African first, and hip hop, just because when I was introduced to those things as I got older, I realized that my mind started to expand a little bit more, and there was more of a familiarity that I hadn't experienced before, which is very contradictory, but I felt like I could be myself in movement for the first time when I first encountered African or hip hop. And even though I'm not good at hip hop today, like even if I'm like in my apartment just dancing around, like I feel so like me, and it feels very authentic and genuine. And yeah, I just wish I would have had more of that when I was like starting out as like a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old. Because I think it definitely would have given me more of a voice. and more of an advocate for myself too.
So, because what's interesting in the first part of what you said is how like so directly it carried over into other areas of your life, like because you are a dancer, right? So like that's how you identify as a dancer, and so that being such a big part of your identity like made the methodology that you use to dance like spill over into like how you operate in the rest of your life. And that to me is like so huge because you can sort of apply that to whatever kind of artistry or however people identify whatever their ability or gift or talent or skill is, and how that skill is approached because you identify so strongly with it will inadvertently like start to shape and affect other aspects of your life. So how does that, like, just having that knowledge base and that experience base, how does that affect how you deal with the children that you teach?
I feel like I'm a lot more aware of what I say to them. I'm always making sure that when I do teach, I give my students a lot of freedom, because even when I can see it, like if I'm teaching them bar and I'll tell them like, make sure that you are infusing your own artistic decision into whatever it is that you're doing. I still want you to do whatever position it is, but how can you add you into it? And they almost look at me like a deer in headlights, because they've never, or maybe very rarely, been given decisions like those or options like those. And so I want to make sure that in whatever class it is that I'm teaching, if it's adults, if it's children, that in each class they're still given some type of artistic freedom. And even if I'm giving like a framework or something, I still want the root of who they are to be a part of everything that they're doing. Just because I don't feel like I was given a lot of that when I was growing up. And so just making sure that kids know that they have agency in what it is that they do, and they have ownership over every single aspect of their life, even if it feels like they don't. And even if it is for an hour and a half in a dance class, at least it gives them something to go back to or build the foundation off of. And so those are like huge things that I try to infuse in every single class that I do.
How has your experience been with the Black dance community in Milwaukee? Like, how do you feel like you've been able to contribute thus far?
It's that's a hard question, because I think that I didn't start placing myself into the Milwaukee dance scene until after college. And when I was younger, I was always dancing like out in Brown Deer, or I would be downtown with Signature Dance Company, which gave me the full Black experience as a dancer, which I'm extremely appreciative of. But outside of that, I didn't have, I wasn't like going to different classes in Milwaukee or being exposed in that way. And so when I went off to college at Madison, which was predominantly white, I came back and felt so lost. And even sometimes I still do, because I don't feel fully welcomed, because I'm not so experienced in different dance styles that I feel like I should have known. And there's this sense of constantly beating myself up because of what I should have done or what I should have spent more time on. But I also am very grateful, because I see that coming back, there's so many different people and there's so much talent in the city that I haven't seen before. And it's so inspiring to see people do different things and people be so open to me, because I've been in both experiences where I do feel welcomed and then I don't. And so it's just like finding the right people to help me navigate those spaces is super important. But yeah, the experience is so new, and it's also refreshing, because being in Madison is just a completely different world. And so I think that it's good for me right now, where I am artistically, to start to like really dive into I'm a black dancer, so I've always been in that space, but I don't think I've always made myself as aware as I should have been when it comes to exposing myself in different dance spaces. And yeah, I don't think I knew that I should have been that
I don't
exposed.
think I knew that I should have been that exposed. I just, representation is so very, very important.
Yeah.
And even though you said like hip hop and African, I think oftentimes when people think of black dance, that's all they think about.
Yeah.
And they think that those are the genres of quote unquote black dance. What I love about you is you have a very fresh approach to modern and contemporary dance. So even in you saying like, I never knew that I should have been exposed to that. From the hip hop perspective, there are people, because one feeds the other.
Yeah.
The art is like just this fractured totality. You know what I'm saying? It's like one is always going to feed the other. So it's like, okay, so I learned about this and I learned about that, and then I learned that, okay, so when I did that over there, then I can tweak that technique and bring it into here, and then I can get better movement from, so I think it's just really important that you are that aware at this point where, okay, this could have fed that. And then you're able to bring that to the children that you teach. And I just think that it's just, art has such a wonderful, number one, it's like therapeutic by default. And art is an easy education. It sort of like bypasses your brain, and it's like you just learn and understand all this stuff that you didn't know that you were able to learn and understand just like by the experience of the art. And so like having that, regardless of when you got it, is so very valuable moving forward, because I think that if you're encapsulated in a certain form, you think that's all there is, and you can become like elitist to an extent, and you can start to believe that your way is the way, your form is the form. And just by being a dancer, normally, the range that you can actually perform is not too super long. So if you limit yourself on the styling that you choose to believe is good, better, best, then you limit the growth that you can actually experience as a dancer. And so for you to be like, okay, wait a minute, okay, I'll try that too. I look whack, I'm in the mirror and I'm looking crazy, but you know what I'm saying? But it's feeding something deeper in me, and that's where the creativity comes from.
Yeah.
So I think that's just so cool, because a lot of times people usually don't have your story where they're willing to try after a certain time for, like, I've been a ballet dancer. This is what I do. I dance classically. This is what I do. And so the movement transition is so huge.
Yeah.
So what are you working on now?
Oh gosh. Okay, so I'm not gonna say dance is taking a backseat, because that is definitely not the case. But I have like some things that I have worked on, and I'm just waiting to share them with the world. And
this is secret squirrel over here.
And so hopefully they'll come into fruition soon. We shall see. Yeah. And then I'm also going into different avenues. I'm about to start teaching yoga, and I'm going back to school for physical therapy, which is scary.
No, that is the dopeness.
Yeah. And so those are like all of the things that are on the surface of my mind right now. But I'm also just, dance is like the forefront for all of those things, and it was the decision maker for each of them as well. And so I really want to be a resource to movers around the world, to help them understand that dance is not just a thing we do, but it's definitely a lifestyle. And I don't want it to become this thing that we pick up and just put down. I feel like it's bigger than that, for me at least. And I know there's a lot of different people who probably feel that way. So I'm just trying to expand in all different aspects so that I can be a resource, just like people are resources for me.
Gosh, Kimberly. No, I'm so glad that you're here. I'm so glad that you were free enough to share all that with us, because there are so many people who can relate to so many things that you shared today, and just the importance of allowing your art to be a living, breathing, growing part of you, you know, and not just suppressing it, or not just saying, you know, it can only be one thing, but making it a holistic part of your life, and making it and honoring your art and the decisions that you make for the rest of the aspects of your life. So I appreciate you, Kimi.
I appreciate you all.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing with us.
Of course.
Kimi Evelyn.